Hey family, it's JB Direct, and I just wanted to let you know we have been receiving your feedback. We have seen the likes, we have seen the page grow, and we just want to acknowledge every single one of you that listen to this podcast every week. The views are going up, the likes are going up, and we just ask that you continue to share, tell a friend to tell a friend, and contribute in whatever way you think you can. It is a book club. Now, we just want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Reading with the Culture. So, welcome back to Reading with the Culture podcast. So glad to have you. So far, we've had a pilot episode followed by our episode 1, and this is episode 2. We did want to release it last week with episode 1, but we did have some technical difficulties. Sorry. So, we're still in our autobiography arc for the season. And we're still on the art and science of respect. We went into the intro last time, just gave like some perspective on who James Prince is, some of his work, some people that he worked with, and we ended off, I believe, just reading what he wrote in the forward preface, rather, my mistake. So if you're joining us for the first time, you're kind of in the middle of something. I suggest you probably watch our last video, or at least just catch up with us, watch the pilot, watch the first episode, so you can have an idea of what to expect in this episode. Again, we're reading the Art and Science of Respect now. Our next 2 books in the autobiography arc will be The Mamba Mentality by the late, great Kobe Bryant. And following that will be Becoming by our still First Lady, well, forever our First Lady in this culture, Michelle Obama. So just letting you know what's upcoming, because this is a podcast, but it also is a book club. And that's where you guys come in. We want to engage with you on our social media, either through YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or even Instagram. And actually, with that being said, let's take some time to pay some bills, y'all. Hey, brothers and sisters, what's going on? JB Direct here, just checking in and hoping all is well. We here at the Reader with the Culture podcast love to engage our listeners and would love to connect with you. So stop what you're doing right now. Put it down. Stop. Yes, you. And make sure you take this time to give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. You can also get alerts when we drop new content if you click this bell after you subscribe. At RWT Culture on all platforms. Peace. I like how you did that. Yeah, just a little some. All right, there you go, getting fancy. Oh, don't get too big for your britches now, boy. Britches? They're britches? That's that 17th, 18th century trousers. Britches, all right? This is a reading podcast, sir. You got to get your grammar together and work on those words. Now, with all that aside, we're going to continue from where we left off earlier, speaking about ownership, what that means to you, and what steps we might have to take to get there. In the book, in the second chapter, Vacuum and House, we see that we have a mom, and mom has two kids, brother and sister, and these two kids have dreams for, what they want to buy their mom. Uh, you know, James Prince, even from he was a kid, dream big. So he had the typical dream every young black or brown boy would have. I want to help mommy out. So what do? Get some money. I want to buy her a house so she don't have to like struggle and, pay this rent and all of that kind of stuff. Commendable. But then we have his older sister. At this time, he was 9 and his sister was... No, I'm lying. He was 11 and his sister was probably like 13. Because I think she was like 2 years older than him. But the sister had a more realistic dream, or a more simple dream. She just wanted to buy her mom a vacuum because that would make her job at home a lot easier. This was the first time that James and his sister stayed up past their bedtime to have a pretty unusual conversation, at least for them. The following day, his sister died in a tragic accident. The details are in the book. Yeah, so we won't give any spoilers away on that one. But essentially, after this tragic incident, Prince was left with having, one, to never be able to see his sister again, and also having to get both the vacuum and the house. Dang, bro. That's kind of sad. Who you telling, man? I couldn't believe what I was reading, and more so, like, that never really came up in any of his interviews or anything like that, anything else that I've, heard from him. So definitely another reason why I would suggest getting the book. We'll discuss things, but we ain't gonna go into everything and not in full detail. We only got like 15 minutes. Well, we can do, more than 15 minutes, but for now we're just trying to, condense things to 15 minutes. Those are some things that you can share in the comments and on our social media. Are these too long? Do you want them to go longer? What kind of information do you want about and out of these books? Okay. All right, I see you. Trying to be helpful this time around. So, following the tragic death of his sister, James couldn't go back. He lived in the house, but he really couldn't function in that house. As with anyone suffering a loss so close to them, depression was setting in. He was traumatized. He didn't sleep for days. He still felt like he could see her in his dreams, those kind of things. And it just wasn't healthy for an 11-year-old child. He was falling asleep in class and becoming distant from friends and classmates. And he just knew that if something didn't change pretty soon, he wouldn't have made it. It was even worse because his mother was also grieving and mourning at the same time. So, yeah, she's in the house. She's putting food on the table, making sure the clothes are clean and things like that. But she wasn't the mom that she was, before the loss. And that also affected young Prince. So, in that situation, Prince was faced with some choices, essentially to stay there and waste away, or to, try to save yourself. And fortunately, he reached out, asked his mom if he could go live with his grandmother. Now, for him, at this time, I believe, and he also states in the book, that was best. Mom needed time and space to grieve and heal. And also, James Prince, couldn't heal in that house at that time. So a little change of scenery definitely helped out. It was there that he was able to clear his head and also get feelings and urges back. He used to get put on the bus every Sunday by his mom to go to church. But now that he wasn't in the projects, he was living with his grandma. It was a bit of a obstacle at this point, but he had faith. He was really insistent. He wanted to go to church and just be around the positive environment. Of course, who wouldn't want to, considering what he was trying to get away from? So during this time in his life, still 11, one Sunday morning, he got up, got dressed, went to the corner and put that 10 cents in the city bus, and he caught that bad boy to church. 10 cents? In the 70s was lit, boy. And he recounts that there's no single act more defining of who he is as a person than that moment there. He was willing to do whatever it took to get what he needed. And in this situation, he needed God. And again, commendable. But what I give him more credit for is going even further a few paragraphs later, letting us know faith alone is not enough. Believing is not enough. We've seen miracles, but you don't just wait on them. So he decided, young Prince, that just as he made the decision to move to his grandmother's house instead of, rotting in his mother's grief-stricken apartment, or getting up, on a Sunday while everybody else was sleeping to, put that 10 cents, pay the city bus, and go to church. He also decided to make the decision to lift himself out of poverty. He knew that there was way more to life than what was in front of him. And the reason why he knew that was because he's seen it on a ride to prison. Dang, homie got locked up. Nah, he just was visiting his uncle, actually, in prison. His uncle was incarcerated for most of his life, but over the years of visiting him, there was about a 2-hour drive in between where he was and where the penitentiary was. It was on this 2-hour drive that he was able to be exposed to land, to a different environment, to space, and to realizing that there is more out there. So back to what I was saying about ownership. For some people, they don't even know if they want to own anything because they haven't been exposed to enough things. Now we have the internet, so go expose yourself. Let me clarify, and not in a Weinstein Tubin kind of way, but sometimes you need a change of scenery to shake things up in your mind, to get a fresh idea, or to just get encouraged to do something that maybe you've already thought about, but you just needed that little nudge or push in that direction. I know for many of our Black and brown youth haven't even got the opportunity to travel. Most of us haven't traveled outside of the United States, much less our own state, much less our own city and boroughs. Some of our, Black and brown children, other than going to school, probably really haven't left the block all that often. And I say all that to simply say this. You won't know that you want to own something, or possibly you won't know that you want to own something if you haven't seen what else is out there, what is outside of your four walls, what's outside of your four squares, Me personally, no offense to anyone who was gang affiliated growing up, or didn't know any better at the time, or just needed family relations in another way for whatever reasons. We joined gangs for whatever reasons. But for me, I would say two reasons I probably never felt like I needed to do that was, one, because I saw so much of the world at a young age. My parents are Jamaican. I was born here, but it's in my blood. I've been fortunate to travel with them, and we ain't have it like that, so don't even think that. But we've traveled to, England, London, Canada, Jamaica, and several states, in the United States. Saying all that to say that it's hard for me to fight you over this one block or these couple of blocks when the world is so big. So that just never made sense to me. And also, fortunately for me, I had church. So I already had like a family outside of my family or within my family, however you want to look at it. So I didn't feel the need to have those kind of ties. Again, nothing against anybody, any of my listeners that, may be affiliated or have friends or family that's affiliated, because on a different podcast episode, we'll discuss that not all gangs are bad and the original use of what gangs were formed for. There's definitely a book about that, and we will get into it. But I digress. We saw that he realized, young Prince, that it was him himself that had to lift himself out of poverty, and he saw land, and land became really important to him. It actually started to represent peace, space to do something with his life, and also ownership. But he didn't just want a little bit of land, he wanted acres, and that wasn't going to be cheap. So he had to come up with a few ideas. So some of the ideas that he's had, being from Houston or raised, in Texas, they were allowed to have, farm animals and things of that nature. So any, young hustler would do what young Prince did. When life gives you chickens, you sell them eggs, boy. And not only that, but he also mowed lawns. And if you know anything about Texas, everything out there big. So those were some big lawns. Now, I know what you might be thinking. He's, still young at this point. How is he doing all this business by himself? How many lawns is he going to mow in a day? And furthermore, what does this have to do with ownership? Well, hand in hand with ownership goes good leadership. And from a very young age, from he was in school, young Prince was able to command a crowd and to lead his followers into achieving, goals that they themselves didn't even know that, they were interested in. But they followed because, well, one, they're young, and two, because at least he had something to offer. The opportunity to make money as a group and have fun while doing it. What kid wouldn't want that? Well, time is far spent. We went a little bit over our 15 minutes that we were shooting for, but we hope that you enjoyed the content up until now. We will be picking up where we left off with leadership, and we're going to go into management and delegation and all those kind of things for next week's episode. So again, we thank you for your time. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend, especially if you enjoy the content. At RWT Culture on all platforms. Again, that's RWTCULTURE. And I'm just here to remind you that you can pick your friends, you can pick your nose, but ain't nothing wrong with picking up a good book every now and then. Peace, love, and guidance, family.
The Reading with the Culture podcast is an independent podcast sponsored by no one yet, but we will be.